By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. Recognize this guy? If you don't, that's okay. But if you do, this might bring up some feelings, some emotions. Hi, my name is Umberto, and this is the Unsafe Zone, where we tell each other secrets and stories and help each other grow. So this guy is He-Man. You might have recognized him. He was very popular in the 80s, and then I think he had a resurgence in the 90s as well. I think this was one of the first cases where the toy industry, designed sort of like a weaponized toy that then came along with a story to go along with it, and like a cartoon and all these things. But it was very almost cynically designed to sell to a particular demographic. And man, I fell for it hard. So yeah, so the features, the general features of the He-Man line of the toy line were these ridiculously exaggerated muscles, almost as big and defined as mine, but not quite. And they had these cool little attachments, like this guy's got a shield and a sword, and he actually came with this amazing one-handed battle axe, which I actually like better than the sword personally. Sorry, I dropped the sword. But anyways, and then he also had this little vest that you could take off, so you could be almost fully naked, except for his little loin thingy, and then little booties. Very strong, very powerful. Definitely a man. I mean, his name is He-Man. But all right. So this was not my first introduction to He-Man, though. I didn't see this guy right away. The background is, so one day the way it worked when I was growing up in Colombia is I lived with my dad and my grandma on my dad's side, my grandparents on my dad's side, and that was in a house in Bogota. And a few miles away lived my grandma from my mom's side. Now my mom no longer lived in Colombia at this point. And I would alternate. I think I would go over every other weekend to my grandma's. Not every other weekend all the time, but that was kind of the regular pattern. And I would spend a weekend over there. And there was always a lot of drama about this, by the way, because, come Friday, I would be excited to go over because, it's something new. And frankly, they would spoil me over there. So there's a lot of goodies usually waiting for me and things like that. So Friday, I was always looking at the window, waiting for my aunt to pick me up or something. And they were inevitably always late. And it was super frustrating. And then, of course, my dad was frustrated because he's like, ugh, I can't believe, they just like try to buy his love with money and all these things. But, long story short, I had a good time those weekends. And so one of these weekends when I get picked up, I think my aunt says to me, oh my gosh, you got to see this toy that your mom sent. It's crazy. And I'm like, oh, and I'm getting really excited. We're like, what's this toy? And at this time, I must be maybe 8 years old, I think. And I'm just like, my curiosity is definitely sparked. She says, oh my gosh, it's got all these muscles and like the muscles move. And I'm like, what? Like, that sounds crazy. Yeah. And so I'm picturing something like almost like one of those stretch dolls, like Stretch Armstrong, or the one they had that was a Hulk, or something really pliable where the muscles kind of move, or maybe something even with like electronics in it. But so I get to my grandma's and I see the package, and in the package is this guy. Does anyone recognize this guy? This is Man at Arms. He is a man at arms. He's got arms, but he also has like arms, It's sort of pun. It's like He-Man, right? And he has these cool armor pieces on, this armor on one arm and this sort of life survival armor on most of his torso. Nothing on this arm for some reason. Like he's like, well, that's my arm. So I don't need armor on that one. And then, his legs, he's like, he had a weak left shin or something, but his right leg, man, no protection needed there. For whatever reason, though, I thought this was so cool. And you could take each one of these little pieces off. He had a helmet. The helmet was kind of part of his head, so you couldn't really take it off. Loved it at first sight. Look at this maul. This thing is like burly. Like, imagine getting splatted on the head with this thing. So I was like, what is this? This is crazy. Now, the muscles didn't move, so I'm like, what? So then I started thinking, wait, is this the thing that my aunt was talking about? Because, like, the muscles don't move. This is hard plastic. If you take the little chest piece off, which I haven't done in a long time, but let's do it for the giggles. If you take this piece off and drop his mole in the process, I'm sure he's pretty upset about that. So first of all, look at this chest. That's like a 20 pack right there. This is crazy. Like, that's a lot of time in the gym right there, you know? All right. So, but anyways, the point is, you could take these things off like that, but the muscles don't move, you know, like that's hard plastic. Now, the arms move, and so maybe this is like, I'm flexing. Or like, look at my legs, they move too, they rotate, I'm so bendy. But that's it, and then the head kind of rotates. So I wasn't quite sure, like, is there another toy that I'm still gonna get where the muscles move? But I was smitten with this thing. I was like so impressed by the whole arrangement here, you know, and it came with a little booklet in the box. You opened it up and it came with a little booklet, and it was this guy right here. This not so to be clear, this is a replica set that I bought many years later. So it's not literally this. This wasn't the literal book that came because it's in really nice condition. But it was this story because they shipped, each little character came with different stories. This is the story that came in that one. And on the back of it, oh my God, it hinted at a whole other world. It showed me this guy He-Man and his arch nemesis Skeletor. And it had this little battle cat thing, saber-tooth looking. And then this beast. And then there was my toy. Then this kind of weird vehicle of some sort. And a castle. These were all other toys you could buy soon. It's crazy. And then on the cover, it featured not my little man-at-arms, but it featured this hero, He-Man. And he was battling some crazy monster from the sea. And then, you know, you open it, and it's this whole little story. And you're jumping kind of in the middle of the story. Because there's Skeletor, and it's telling you, you know, of all the beings of the planet Eternia, none was as evil as skull-faced Skeletor. You know, there's no one as evil. There was no good in him. He stood defiantly on the rim of an active volcano. Not just a volcano, an active volcano. And using his energy blade, he dared to fight with the lightning that flashed about him. Look at the lightning, it's flashing about him. The hatred in his heart was as searing as the volcano's belching smoke. That's searing. I thirst for vengeance, Skeletor shouted as the sky responded with a loud crash of thunder. Pow, 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 pow. Pshoo. Is that what thunder sounds like? And then the story continues. I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you want me to read these in the future, tell me in the comments. But just as a summary, we're introduced to the main characters. We have Skeletor and He-Man and Man-at-Arms. And then this gal, look at that. There's a woman in here. Teela. Was Teela He-Man's sister or his girlfriend? I don't know. I was instantly in love with Teela. What is this? Well, she looks a little kind of grumpy in this picture. Like, you know, we're going to kick your butt kind of thing. But still. And then there's this guy swinging from the vines. It's like a beast man. And his name is actually Beast Man. Very, very literal. And then we're introduced to another baddie, Merman, who's predictably like a creature of the sea, you know, Merman. Oh my gosh. And they're all pledging their loyalty, and Skeletor's got a sword that's suspiciously like He-Man's sword. So it hints at an even deeper story. And then poor He-Man gets jumped by these baddies, and they have powers. You know, see, like the Beastman can shoot some sort of ray, but He-Man deflects it with his all barely skin covering armor. There must be some energy field. That's the thing about the He-Man world, by the way. It's not like all medieval by itself. It's medieval with technology. So it's like this mix of tech and medieval stuff. So for example, while He-Man here looks very barbarian-esque, right? Apparently this little vest he's wearing emits a force field. And, you know, even though Man-at-Arms also looks kind of medieval, like if you look at his helmet's kind of like, you know, electronic-y. And in the cartoon, you see a lot more of that. In the show, they made a TV show. So then He-Man gets taken. Teela sees this. Merman dumps He-Man in the sea. Oh my gosh, that's the end of He-Man. This must be the first and last story of the series. So it's pretty sad. But then all of a sudden, no. No. He-Man gets attacked by a sea creature, but this guy from the stratosphere, whose name is Stratos, comes and saves him, which is fantastic. Then He-Man is able to recover his little sci-fi vehicle there and meets up with, you see what I'm saying? It's a mix of stuff. Meets up with Teela and her steed. I don't know what the horse's name is. And then they are surely going to face their adversaries. And sure enough, a battle ensues and everyone kind of attacks. You see everyone's kind of like, he's got little ice attacks, and here's his force field stopping Beastman's onslaught. Very fun stuff. In fact, we see then He-Man stepping on Beastman. Clearly he's overpowered him. And by the way, he should overpower him because He-Man is supposed to be the most powerful man in the universe when he's in He-Man form. We'll talk more about that in a latter episode. We're doing a whole series, probably 100 episodes about this, or maybe 3. We'll see. Yeah, so more battle, and then Skeletor is so upset at Merman's defeat that he shoots him. He takes his revenge on his own henchman, which is crazy. And Merman doesn't like the heat, so he has to use his own sword to try to get himself wet again, because he's like the man from Atlantis or Aquaman. He needs the water. And then He-Man charges Skeletor, and then Skeletor's even more upset, so he takes it out again on his henchman. It's like a lot of projection happening here. And then at the end, the superheroes are like, you know what? Why don't we actually use our blasty weapons? I don't know why they didn't do this earlier. So yeah, sure. And then He-Man sort of lends his arm to Teela. It's funny because as far as I know, He-Man does not have any sort of projectile weapon or ray. But he's standing there in a pose that looks like, yeah, Teela, let's go. It's really Teela doing the hard work here. And, and then Stratos has this cool little thing, and that just blasts them to oblivion. I mean, it kind of looks like that's the end of them, but they're jumping to their escape, and trust me, they're fine. And that's the end of this installment. Well, I got to tell you, my little 8-year-old mind was blown away. And then even more teasers for more toys. Like, look, if you thought that was enough, no. Look at that Stratos. You can buy all those characters you just saw. And even more, look at this thing, And who was this guy? Like Zodak, he wasn't even in this story. This was mind-blowing. I gotta tell you, I was so blown away. I was in love with this. I wanted all the toys. And there was mystery, who is this person? What's going on here? What's the backstory? So I only had Man-at-Arms to start with. And I didn't have an easy way to get more because this had been sent from the United States to Colombia. I couldn't just walk down to my local Colombian toy store and pick these up. They weren't selling there. The cartoon wasn't showing in Colombia yet. I don't know if the cartoon was live yet. It probably was, but it wasn't showing yet. It would be a few years before they did that. So I was sitting there, dressing and undressing my little Man-at-Arms and playing with his little mall thing, and integrating him into my play with other toys, like my Star Wars toys. So the Star Wars guys, who were much smaller plastic toys compared to this guy, let me tell you, luckily Man-at-Arms was a good guy in my play usually, so maybe it was actually helpful to them to fight the Empire. And so that was good. And Star Wars is similar in that Star Wars is also a mix of old-timey kind of things and new tech. For example, the Jedis, they dress in these robes, and they live these little Spartan lives, and they eat blue milk and stuff. But they have these high-tech lightsabers. But even the high-tech lightsaber is supposed to be sort of a little more spiritual than just a blaster, So yeah. So this was my first exposure to the world of He-Man, and let me tell you, it was amazing. But this would eventually lead down a not so bright path for me. And I'm going to talk more about that in the next episode, because along with great toys comes great responsibility. No, it comes great issues of envy and wanting more, and frustrations at not having everything, and then confusion about needing to own everything. And anyways, That's very interesting stuff we'll talk about in the next one. But I just wanted to give you an intro and fly down memory lane a little bit and let you know how important this was for me. You might have had different things. You might have had an experience with He-Man and the He-Man franchise. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. But there might have been other toys for you. I mean, certainly, I should say, Star Wars was the number one. So He-Man was, somewhere in the top 5 for me. But Star Wars was actually absolutely number one. I'll probably do a series on that as well. But that's such a huge topic. I wanted to do this because this is a little bit more narrow. So did you have that toy or that little set of toys that has a special place in your heart, or you might even have a conflicted experience, a set of experiences with it? I'd love to hear about it. And that's what we're going to explore in these next few videos. All right, that's it for now. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.